Welcome to another edition of Bowie TV's Youth, Community, and Lifestyle. During this hour, we're bringing you highlights from some of our shows focused on youth, community, and lifestyle. Please be sure to give us a follow on all of our social platforms. First up on How to Steam Your Dreams, check out more gameplay clips from the 2025 Wavebreakers Cup ahead of the recap of the 2025 DMV Ocean Bowl Games. Then on the BE Collective Plus, watch the recap of the Sports Business and NIL Education Summit at Hampton University. On Read Science, author Dan Egan talks climate issues and how our world is shifting out of balance on this last part of the episode. Next, on the Spotlight DMV, entrepreneur Pinky Cole sits down with Angie Ange for a refreshing conversation on this part 3. Finally, on the Hair Kitchen, we take a look at the sit-down with artist Larry Poncho Brown, where he discusses what motivates his work on this part 2. Thank you for tuning into this week's programming of Bowie TV's Youth, Community, and Lifestyle, and have a safe and happy New Year.
Okay, who's number 2? Oh, they working together. Good pass. Oh, he stole it. Oh, good block. Oh, veteran move. Boy, he didn't show no fear to this time. Set up the play and took it from the guy. Yikes. Let's go. Okay, what a veteran. Oh, he left something in that pool. I don't know what it is. Something in the ocean. Oh, man. Let's go. Come on, block that. You gotta block him. You gotta block. Oh! 3-1. 3-1. It's not over yet. Hey, XPG2, you still got time. I believe in you. Let's go. Okay, they're going down. Okay, yo. Egan is playing like a hawk right now. He's a veteran. He's been in the Aqua Bowl League for about...
How are y'all? Good? Really? Alright, so, like she said, I am Miss Rochelle Lewis, and thank y'all for showing up for yourselves today, okay? Make sure your feet flat on the ground. Now let's take a second, and let's roll our shoulders back 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now let's roll it forward 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And take that right ear and drop it to our right shoulder. And let's bring it back to center. Take that left ear. Drop it to your left shoulder. Bring it back to center. Now back to our right. Right ear to right shoulder. Really stretching your neck. Bring it back to center. Now let's take that left ear to our left shoulder. Bring it back center. Now let's take a deep inhale in through our nose Waco. Think about how cold it is outside. Let it all float away.
Just a question, like, what's got
Okay, back up. I graduated from Hampton. I worked in college athletics. Then I started my own business, a marketing consulting agency. I still operate in the sports space, doing some consulting for some college athletic departments, but also I am a consultant for an agency called RH7 Sports, which is focused on NIL and just sponsorship, marketing partnerships for athletes, specifically only women's athletes. So, super excited to talk to you guys today about building your brand. I will pass it to Jen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. A little bit. My name is J.P. Brown. I am an undergrad.
Hello, Bowie television watchers. This is Candy Waller checking in from my home by the sea, Hampton University, as we are here for a sports business and NIL summit, hosted and sponsored by the B Collective. I'm here with two current Hampton University students. So go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Lillian Campbell. I'm a first-year sports management major from Atlanta, Georgia.
Hi, my name is Peyton Orr. I'm a graduating senior strategic communications major with the emphasis in sports management from Chicago, Illinois.
So what we're doing here in this interview is just some instant reactions from this morning's session. You all have done some breath work, and you've also learned about branding. Can you share some instant reactions of some of the things you've learned?
Yes, so this morning I really liked how everything started off with just focusing on your breathing and your mental health. That was really good. Just, getting to relax, just be real calm and start the morning off. And then also something I took away with just like when it comes to branding, like knowing like your platform and who your audience is and really having like that connection and make you stand out and to get views on social media platforms.
Well, for me, especially because I'm an athlete myself, I feel like hearing the mental health part was really important and it really stuck with me.
So are you all looking forward to the rest of the day? And see, alrighty. Well, I appreciate you all taking the time to share your instant reactions of the summit so far.
Of course.
No problem. Thank you.
One of my strengths for my social media page, I would say, is marketing. Question mark? I don't really know how to explain it. Like when I take pictures. Okay. So that's one of the things that get a lot of likes. And yeah.
Okay. So I'm Miss Smith here, but in the real world, I'm the owner of Chat and Garden podcast. I got a private Facebook group where folks are in it. But one thing I will say, even though I don't do it, is video is what makes everybody stage. My podcast is audio only, but for my personal reason. I never gave who to know what's on my Facebook. But when I do Facebook Live, I do that with the contributors to my magazine, which makes me want to go buy the magazine because now I got the real people right here. But movement is key. So listen, if you don't want your face to be shown, you can do a video with a voiceover. So, and I told you all over and over again, people are looking for social media management. So just remember to get over it and get to it.
So, one thing I want you to keep in mind when you're filling out your sheet, especially for the student athletes, is that when we're talking about NIL and just the opportunities that come from that, we look at a term that we call market value. So it's like, what market value do you as a person, as a brand, as a student athlete bring to that company, to that brand? So from a market value standpoint, I look at 4 factors. The first factor is your location. So location is obviously the school that you go to, where that school is, but at the same time, it's also where you're from, because that's where a lot of your following is going to be.
Her following to kind of transition into, buying a magazine or looking at her social media, right? That is through interest. Vaughn said something extremely important as well when it comes down to knowing your geographic location, right? That's also about interest, like what's selling in that area. So, one person, tell me something right now that's trending on social media that everyone in this room would know about. Just blurt it out. Doesn't have to be, nothing formal. One thing that's trending right now on social media that everyone in here knows about. Yes.
2016 is back trend. They said that 2026 is 2016.
Boom. Okay. What else is trending? Super Bowl. Super Bowl is trending. Okay. What else is trending?
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. Why is Minneapolis trending?
Because of the ICE killings and the shootings.
It's a thing, right? It's something that generates interest. When you're on the football field, what prevents you from, posing for the camera, popping your chain? Something as simple as this. Posing in front of the camera, flashing your chain, and tagging the jeweler that you bought the chain from.
Like I mentioned, my name is Dr. Marissa Edwards-Farrell, and I am the creative director, quote unquote, of Be Collective, the director of vision, and I'm joined here by the founder and creative director of Legacy History Pride. I'm gonna hand the mic over to you to have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. How y'all feeling? I'm good. What's up? My second time here at Hampton, so glad to be back. It's a little colder than anticipated, but it's all good. As mentioned before, my name is Tahir Murray, graduate of Hampton University, class of 2021. I started my brand Legacy History Pride, also known as LHP, in 2019. I was a sophomore on campus, and I kind of just noticed, being on campus, there wasn't a lot of cool, school gear in the bookstore and products that really embody the HBCU experience and just Black culture in general.
So you are very hands-on in your camp, facilitating, talking to, covering insurance, waters, lunch, all of these different elements that go into the camp, securing the venue, getting the coaches, getting all of these pieces. You understand operations. You understand at a small level game day operations. So I'll use myself as an example. This event, right? This event came from experience that I had working in sponsorship activation for professional teams. So.
And 2 years later, it was about the same amount, maybe more, maybe less. I can't remember. But the point is, this thing isn't stable. It wasn't then, and even today it isn't. So as the wet season is approaching, the Army Corps will release water from Lake Okeechobee, and it goes down canals and rivers to the Gulf Coast near Fort Myers, and down rivers and canals to the Atlantic coast at Stuart, Florida, where their beaches in both places are just smothered in the gunk. And so I went to a town hall meeting at City Hall in Stuart, Florida, back in, I think it was 2019, and the people were pissed. There was just outrage in the room, and this wasn't a gathering of environmentalists. These were, boat owners, homeowners, politicians. It's just had a devastating effect. It doesn't happen every summer, but it happens often. And so I talked to a guy who he'd been eating nothing but Tums for 3 days, and he ran a chain of magazines, and he had a 6,000 square foot office building that I went by it to try to meet him, and it just said we're closed because of the fumes. And so you don't have to swim in this stuff to be exposed to it. You can just breathe it in, and it'll make you sick, to the point that the local, I think it was a health network, maybe it was the health department, was posting signs everywhere around Stuart saying, this water isn't safe to swim in. And then, that was health officials. The health network started a policy of anybody coming into the emergency room with certain symptoms, primarily respiratory and gastrointestinal, to find out if they've been swimming. Now, this is ranked as one of America's top 10 beach towns.
Right.
And the product that they've built their economy on is going south. And it's not an abstract environmental issue where you're worried about the habitat of some creature thousands of miles away. They're worried about their own habitat and their own selves, their own health. And so getting to Guam, one of the areas that made me feel a little squeamish when I was doing the reporting for the book was how far to take this. But there's been some research and there's been some correlation, far from any causation established, that people who live near these water bodies that are infested with cyanobacteria, particularly there's a study that happened up in New Hampshire where an inordinate number of people living around this toxic or this algae polluted lake were coming down with ALS. Mm-hmm. So there's fear that it could long-term exposure, and like I said, you don't have to swim in it. Although if you do swim in it, or drink it, it'll kill a dog real quick. It was recently killing elephants in Africa, and it killed dozens of humans down in Brazil when some of the toxin got into the water supply at a dialysis center. So it's not just an aesthetic issue. It's serious toxin, and one of the worries right now is that it could be increasing incidence. Could be one factor in increased incidence of neurodegenerative diseases like ALS. And Guam figured into the book because there was a study done a while back about are they Guamanians? I can never remember.
Guamanians are fine. The natives are called Chamorros. So
well, and the Chamorros, were coming down with an ALS-like affliction, and the theory at the time was it was because they were eating fruit bats. The whole and fruit bats were eating some kind of, I can't remember what they were eating, moss or something. Yeah. That has this protein BMAA that has been linked to some of these neurodegenerative diseases, and so BMAA was considered to be bad stuff. And now there's research along the Florida coast showing that a lot of sea life has high levels of BMAA. There's a chapter or a section of a chapter on this in the book. And I'm glad we put it in, and I think we appropriately caveated it because it
you sure did. Yeah.
But it's definitely something that should be on people's radars when they're thinking about how severe this problem is or can be. And it's getting worse. I mean, it's just maybe, I think some of it is there's a heightened sensitivity to it, but there was a study done last year, and I think the incidence of it being reported in media globally had gone up. It was over, I can't remember the percent, but it was huge. And a lot of it depends on what the years are like. If there's more rain, we're going to have more runoff, which is more phosphorus in the lake. And with climate changing, we are having more rain and more intense, in many places, spring events. And so that really primes lakes like Lake Erie. I'll just talk real quickly about that.
Sure.
I was saying it's probably time to put that line back in the Lorax. Lake Erie is ground zero because of the Western Basin is heavily, heavily farmed. And it's, I'm not going to say most, but I think it's probably most of those acres. The land is so flat. It used to be a swamp, and it was drained, and it was turned into cornfields and soy crops. But the land is so flat that there needed to be drainage systems installed. So they call them drain tiles, but they're basically pipes under farm fields that pull water from the surface and flush it downstream. And in western Ohio, that's Lake Erie. And so the Western Basin it's so bad that they now predict the annual bloom, and they can span like 2,000 square miles of just this that stuff that you were showing in the cover.
On the book. Yeah, it's great. Great image.
Like these aerial photos where that just goes on forever and ever, and it's not getting any better. And as a matter of fact, it's gotten so bad already that I think it was 2014. Some of this stuff, the toxin from it, it's clear the toxin can break away from the algae. And the cyanobacteria and exist independently of it. It's colorless, odorless, and it made its way into Toledo's drinking water supply. So they, in the middle of the night, had a do not drink order go out, and by the next morning, grocery stores as far away as Ann Arbor, which is like an hour away, were empty of bottled water. And this went on for days, to the point where the National Guard was called in to bring in like baby formula. You can't go very long without water or food, so this is a city on the edge of the world's largest freshwater system, And at that point, it couldn't safely drink. The 500,000 residents of Toledo and environs could not, trust what was coming out of their taps. Right. And that's pretty grim. That wasn't happening when the Cuyahoga River was on fire. The water could be treated and consumed. So yeah, these are things that I think people really need to start thinking about harder. And it's not, my book isn't a prescription. It's not saying, let's do this, this, that. I think I just want to paint the picture and connect the dots to paint a picture or to sketch a picture of what's going on.
Speaking of connecting dots, like there is a little segue from your previous book to this one. You had a bit about phosphorus because you're talking about things affecting the Great Lakes. I mean, the focus was a lot on invasive species, but pollution's definitely another thing. So was it while you're writing the other book or that you go, I think this could make another?
Yeah, it's exactly what happened. Pretty much, yeah. As a matter of fact, I thought, because the Great Lakes book is really, the product of more than a decade's worth of work covering the Great Lakes for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. And when I was writing it, I kind of felt like I was rehabbing an old house because I was given free rein to use whatever I needed to for my newspaper for the book. So I can't say it was cutting and pasting at all, but I mean, I would move sections in and then try to make it fit with everything around it. But it did feel like I was constrained, and I'd see something in a section and I'd need to take it out, and then I'd realize, oh, that was there for a reason because 2 pages later I haven't introduced this concept. So it was like carrying this analogy to rehabbing a house. It'd be like, oh, that was a load-bearing wall you just took down. Put it back, and I thought, boy, would it be fun to design and build a house from scratch. And then when I was reading about phosphorus and how this alchemist cooked it out of his urine when he was trying to find the philosopher's stone, which they believed back then could turn base metals into gold. When I saw that he cooked it out of urine and then it was quickly weaponized, I was like, this is way more interesting than the Great Lakes. And I particularly, I mentioned how I opened the book, but my grand scheme when I first conceived this idea was to start the book by making my own phosphorus.
Your own?
Yeah.
I was quickly disabused of any notion that could be fun or effective. It's really dangerous, and it's not even really possible to do on a small scale with the lab gear that we have today. And I was going to try it with a turkey frog.
Yeah. My partner and I would watch, some decades ago, naturalistic documentaries and things that always seemed to work their way around to how certain Aboriginal people lived in perfect harmony with nature. And we would always say, it's easy to live in perfect harmony with nature if there's only 12 of you. But if there's 12 million of you, it's a lot harder.
Yeah. And
that all is demonstrated in here. And then I've been thinking, as I looked at this sweep of history, I started thinking, well, we had a century of discovery, maybe, or two. We had a century of exploitation, and now we seem to have a century of consequences.
Yeah.
And everything's overexploited because the scale is so large. You start out with an inexhaustible supply of bird poop, and birds are going to keep pooping, and then you find out, no, you'll use it all up in 43 years. That just keeps popping up in the last time of all these things that we say, let's just mine it. It's inexhaustible, petroleum, whatever. And it seems not to be. A question sort of is like, if you can summarize, but what are you going to tell people who read this and go, this is horrible, but how am I supposed to keep track of all of these horrid consequences that are happening and have any hope whatsoever? It's a little bit bewildering because they all seem like high priority demanding stories.
I agree. So a couple answers to that, if it was a question, I'm not sure.
Yeah, let's call that a question.
First of all, it's I think it's an entertaining book, and even though it's a grim subject.
Oh yeah.
And, it's just kind of a dance through a lot of the science of the last 200 years.
Yes.
And so I think it has utility in that, just for a reader experiencing. Of course, that's my opinion.
Well, it makes all these connections real and authentic.
Yeah. It shows the interconnectedness of a lot of things. And here's one thing that the problem is connected to, and that's ethanol. Okay.
Yeah.
So what can we do? Well, and again, I'm not going to say do this. I'm just going to say you should know about this, and if you have an opinion, make it known. But 40% of the corn that we grow nationally ends up as ethanol, and ethanol has proven to be kind of an economic and an environmental wash, probably a loser to everybody who isn't making money off of it. And the people making money off of it love it. And when I say it, I'm not just talking about ethanol. I'm talking about the ethanol mandate that has been in place since the 1990s under, I think it was the second George Bush, where 10% of our fuel, when you go to the gas pump, you'll see the sign, in some places it's 15% is ethanol. And that stuff it's not an economic or an environmental winner because it takes a lot of energy to produce it to begin with. It takes a lot of land and puts it in production that would otherwise be performing some ecosystem services in terms of benefiting wildlife and whatnot. And it takes a lot of fertilizer too. And so it's, despite all this, it remains remarkably politically popular. And I would argue that that's because of Iowa's place on the presidential primary calendar. Yeah, I mean, it's at the top, the Iowa caucuses. So if you have presidential ambitions, you basically have to go to Iowa and pledge allegiance to ethanol. And Al Gore said as much. When he was running for president, he came out in support of ethanol, which he no longer does, as I understand it. And he said it was because he had a particular fondness for the farmers of Iowa. And so that, to me, is, some low-hanging fruit, if you will. Like, it's something to do. Should we rethink this? Not just because of the inefficiency of the product, but because of what it's doing, the consequences it's having on our fresh waters.
And it was in the height of the pandemic when it cost $900,000 to open up a Slutty Vegan when it should only cost $600,000 to open up a Slutty Vegan. But in the height of the pandemic, a box of gloves was $12 when it was only supposed to be $4. So inflation was through the roof. So I got money at a time when, a lot of people weren't getting money, but at the same time, everything was so expensive. And then I didn't have the right leadership in place. And because I didn't have the right leadership in place, the empire that I built eventually crumbled. So my investors, they kept asking me, they kept, suggesting that I file for something called an ABC. Does anybody know what an ABC is? Raise your hand. Okay, one of us, two of you. You like 5 years old, you don't know the ABC. Oh, you know the alphabet. Yes, you do know the alphabet. Okay. You know your ABC. We all know our ABC. It's called an assignment for the benefit of creditors. So think of it like bankruptcy's second cousin. And what that is when you have too much debt in your business and you can't overcome from the debt, you have to go into this insolvency proceeding. And an estate takes over. So y'all remember Michael Jackson when an estate took over? An estate will take over and they will own all of the assets. And what that meant for me is I no longer owned the company. I had to resign from the board. I no longer was the CEO. And for 43 days, I didn't own that company. And that was incredibly difficult for me. I am the Slutty Vegan. But can you imagine? Something happened in my business that wasn't directly my fault, but when you are the CEO, you are going to get all of the praise and you're also going to get all of the booze. So for those 43 days, I got clear, because guess what I was? I was uncomfortable. And there's a lot of things that I learned. The first thing that I learned was when I got hit by a mattress on the highway doing 70 miles an hour. In real time, a king mattress hit me driving in the middle of the highway. And I said, God was telling me that I needed to rest. Okay. Okay. And then somebody pulled over trying to pick the mattress up and put it on their truck. I said, put the mattress down.
Was this in Atlanta?
This was in Atlanta.
Because anything goes in Atlanta.
Anything goes in Atlanta.
I'd have been out there like, oh my God.
But the other,
Mario, go listen up there.
The other thing that I learned is that as an entrepreneur, you can never take your hands off the wheel. I don't care how good the resume is. I don't care how many businesses they've scaled. When you are finding talent to take your company to the next level, that little thing called your third eye, you always got to keep open. And you need to make time for the thing that it is that you built. Because when it all crumbles, everybody else is going to run it. You're going to be stuck with the debt. You're going to be stuck with the lawsuits. You're going to be stuck with the poor credit because your name is on everything. That is what happened to me. The third lesson that I want to teach you when you are growing a company, if you can fight it, do not be a personal guarantor in your business. Did y'all hear what I said? When I lost my company, my name was attached to everything. Nobody told me not to do that. My name was attached to the leases. My name was attached to the EIDL loans. It was attached to everything. So guess what? When the company folded over, guess who they went to find the money? Me. They came after me. Killed my credit. Destroyed my credit. I couldn't even buy a stick of gum. And I'm still making millions. Double-digit millions. So if you are an entrepreneur in this audience, when you get leases and you're growing your business, if you have a brick and mortar, make sure it's like a good guy guarantee. After a year, if you have to put your name on it, take your name off after a year. You do not want to be liable in that business. Your personal name should not be associated with your business because we never really anticipate that our business is going to fall apart. But now you do. You have to look at all angles, and I'm so glad that it happened to me early on because now I can sit on stages like this and talk to entrepreneurs and say, do what I did or don't do what I did so that you can do things differently and continue to grow your company. And then the last thing that I'll tell you, I talked to you about talent, but talent is the engine that you need to grow a successful company. And you cannot cut corners on talent. Oftentimes, I used to just hire people off Instagram because they said that they needed a job. LinkedIn is your best friend. LinkedIn. If you are an entrepreneur, you need to be on LinkedIn finding the right people, okay? And it's okay to go scouting people. If they work for somebody else, so what? Scout them. Seek them out. Because I realize your talent is your culture. If you have good talent, you have a great culture. If you have a great culture, you have a great business. If you have a great business model, investors want to invest in your business. Here's the other scenario. If you don't have good talent, you don't have a good culture, people don't want to work for you because they can't stand the leadership or the leadership don't know what they're doing. And if you don't have a good culture in the business, then it is going to be displayed with your consumer. And if the consumer see that it's all over the place, they will come once or twice, but they're not coming back. And when they stop coming back, guess what? You don't make those dollars. And when you stop losing those dollars, now you can't afford to pay your staff. And when you can't afford to pay your staff, now you cut corners and you half-assing it, and you get people that aren't good for your organization, and they're giving you 75% when you really need 100. So your talent is the gift that keeps on giving. So you gotta make sure that you got the right talent. You gotta make sure that you got your third eye open. You have to make sure that you always pay attention to your business and do not put your name on every single thing in your business. That is the biggest pieces of advice that I can give you when you're growing and scaling a company. Scaling is not the hard part. You can scale all day long, but knowing how to consistently be consistent when you're scaling will make all the difference. So I hope I answered your question, sir. But yes, tons of lessons learned, and I would not trade it for the world. Wouldn't trade it for the world, because let me tell you something. Right after I lost my company and I bought it back, do you know I was on the stage introducing T.D. Jakes and Oprah Winfrey on the stage of 2,000 people, all because of my story and how I lost my company and I bought it back. So every single thing that happens in my journey is by way of reason. And I wrote a book called I Hope You Fail, and we have it out in the lobby. But it really, failure is not what society thinks it is. It's finding the aspirations in the losses. The best lessons I've ever learned is because by society's standard, I may have failed, but it really was just giving me the wherewithal to be smarter, to be stronger, to be wiser. So when I see it happen again, I'm like, been there, done that. I've learned. It was expensive, but guess what? That's the best schooling that I ever had.
I encourage everybody to go find that book. Pages and Volumes is the bookstore. It's a Black woman-owned bookstore back there. But go to the Pages and Volumes table to get, I think we have both of your books.
Yes, we got the Implants B, because there's kids in here. It's a cookbook with amazing recipes. So yes, get that one too.
Okay, Pages and Volumes in the back. Make sure you check out that book. Before I get to your question though, that leads me to something though. I want to talk about how your personal brand can be impacted by your business brand and the mixing of the two. I'll stick a pin in it because I want to prioritize your question. But I want to speak to that as well. What happens when, because again, these lawsuits come, these headlines come, but again, we still see you, we still see you making millions, and then people, sometimes can come at you about all of that and how you just manage the two without losing them both.
Hey, Pinky. Okay, so my question, it kind of tethers, I think, what the young man was asking too. Like, we hear you now, and you are so confident. Like, you know what you know, you're safe in your space. But we also know you have done things that are remarkable, right? And along the journey, my question is, like, when you're starting out on that, what no one has ever done before, right? And you get this imposter syndrome. And when he said, well, how do I know when to start charging? I think, it shows up on that level. For most people, the people I talk to on the ground level, they're like, I don't know what to charge, and when do I start charging? And then for you, like, when do you know to charge forward, right, for the first time? So kind of that imposter syndrome, what gives you that internal, like, I'm going for that thing, it's never been done, but I'm going to do it in spite of?
So you just have to do it. What I've learned is, so let's talk about content creators for a second. Content creators are the new celebrities, right? And it's because they show up authentically as themselves every single day. And because they show up authentically as themselves every single day, they begin to build a community that people want to consume. So the minute that you feel like you have enough of a community where people want to consume it, that is the moment where you should start charging, because there's somebody else in the world who has less people in their community and they're making a lot of money doing it. Another little key that I use, I got a best friend, and her name is Tisha. Do y'all know who that is? ChatGPT Tisha. All right? Okay. All right. So what I would do is I always use prompts. So I want everybody who has this question to go into ChatGPT and say, hey, I need to know when is a good time to start charging. How much should I charge? What are they charging in market for the service that I'm offering? Okay? And how much do they charge for this service? And when do I start charging it? And what should that price include? What should I offer them for the price that they are willing to pay? With ChatGPT, and I am a big proponent for AI, okay? AI is the new way. And by the way, I'm gonna give you a little cheat code, write this down. There is an AI called Fixer. Fixer, F-Y-X-E-R, Fixer. What Fixer does is it checks all your emails and puts them in a draft, and it just, entrepreneurs, it makes your life a lot better. So write that down. But you find out what other people are doing. It's like real estate. What are the comps? If they're charging over here $4,500 and y'all are doing the same thing, why not you? And we have to get out of our own head. I think that that's the thing that separates us from our greatness, is because we don't want to post the content, or we don't want to charge. I used to be like that before. I didn't want to charge, but I eventually said, you know what? I know that I have a gift. And I know that I have something special, but there is a flip side to charging. You can't charge people if you don't know the information yourself. You have to do the research. The research is ever flowing. You should always be learning, always be building. And the money that you make from charging people, you should be going to conferences to learn more. You should always have mentors. You should be getting as much information as you can, and getting information that the average consumer has not gotten, so that you can funnel it down. So when I'm in these big rooms, and there's billionaires in these rooms, and these people that have all of these big portfolios, I'm sitting there being a sponge. So when I come back, I can report back the information to people who have not gotten in those rooms yet, but it's the art of the exercise of learning the information so that I can process the information down, and then you'll feel comfortable charging people for it. If you ain't where you want to be on the information, then don't charge. But if you feel like you're an expert and you continue to learn, you are more than within your power to charge when you see other people doing it, one, as a comp, and when you feel confident to know that what you have can't be learned somewhere else.
I love that. Research and investment. Those are the two things I took from what you just said, is the power of doing the research. And then investing in your own education, investing in your own knowledge. So if you
second question. Being
Mm-hmm.
a teacher is one of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, if you say hairdresser, they're gonna ask you 1,000 questions about being a hairdresser. If I'm an artist, you and I have been out before, and we've played this role where we go to social events and people start going around the table asking,
Oh God.
"What do you do?"
Yeah.
And I always hated that because I hated having to justify the mystique of what an artist is to people. So I started coming
Mm-hmm.
up with lies and saying I was out. Two things would shut them down completely. Either I was going to be a mortician, that shuts them down cold. They
No
don't
one
even
wants
want
to
to hear
talk to
that.
you anymore.
And then I think one of the ones I used when we went out
Bounty
one
hunter.
time was bounty hunter.
No one wants to talk to you anymore either. Those two things
And
don't
I'm
warrant a
working.
conversation.
And I'm working.
Exactly. So if any of you got any claims right now, any warrants, I suggest you leave the table.
Yeah, so I never had an issue with identity as far as that word an artist and what that represents. As a matter of fact, I think I embraced that pretty early in life.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Looking back, do you think your art was more about expression, survival, or storytelling?
It's all of it.
Okay.
It's therapy first.
I
Because
know, I read that in your book.
if I'm looking down and I'm drawing, I'm not tuning into the world. I'm time traveling. I could be isolated. There's a lot of things that happens from that energy. You know what I'm saying? So before you add the other elements to it, that's what it is first. Now, I'm trying to figure out if you want to do it for a career or as a hobbyist or professional and all that is those are other decisions to make.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was just linear. I liked it. I was going to do it, and I was going to figure out a way to do it, even though the roadmap of how to do it wasn't already established.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned the therapy portion in your book, and I thought that was quite interesting because looking at art can be therapeutic for those of us on the outside who aren't artistic like that, and we're not artists. So it never even crossed my mind that it could be therapy for the actual person.
Well, think about it. When you talk about any kind of situation in the medical field, the holistic field, when you start talking about all the challenges that people are dealing with, art is one of the few things that is a known therapy for a multitude of things. People with deficit disorders and all kinds of other things, depression. It's one way to tap into what people can't say. If they can express it, children have been drawing images of people who have oppressed them or violated them. So I mean, it's always been that. We just look at it from a Eurocentric view of can I afford it? Is it art on the wall? Is it fancy? Is it doing whatever? Is it matching my drapes in my sofa? Not to what is it for?
But it's
the truth because everybody collect for different reasons, and once you start collecting and you feel like you're part of that audience, you got to realize there are all kinds of people that are collecting for different reasons. You know, so for me, I start with the therapy first because artists always want to talk about and look at my career and judge it from what they think they see. But for me, it's way simpler than that. I say thank you to God for my gifts by every piece I do. And every 2 pieces I do stops me from slapping one person.
Oh my. Okay, well, you did 80 of them, so that's about 40 people in this quarantine.
So no, it's all good. It keeps me going because, you know, artists and depression, they are 2 words that go hand in hand. People don't talk about that. Creative people and depression go hand in hand. And so people that write, that do music, that they all have with creativity comes this depressive emotional thing. And when you're creating, you can hold this at bay. When you're not creating, this can become chaotic. And so for most of us, finding the balance of the two is what we're striving for. We're not worried about whether we get paid, what people like, what we do, X, Y, and Z. We're trying to figure out a balance that where we can get the most of whatever we do. Because everybody's doing it for different reasons. I'm an extremist. This is all or nothing for me. I didn't have a plan B, a plan C. It was A only, and I can eat beans and water. If we don't make it.
Right. As your work evolved, so did your visibility. Talk to us a little bit about the early stages of building your name. Because I do remember seeing LOBJ, and then poncho. I never saw any of
That's
it.
directly tied to my father. My father used to sign his work LOB, and it was kind of just the letters, and it was on the diagonal. And so I, being the son, I did LOB, and then I added a J, so I had this weird diagonal
Yes.
LOBJ. And I was like, man, I need something different. So I just said, let me use my nickname. And that it stuck. So I'll be a 100-year-old man known as Poncho, but that is a totally synonymous name. It is not my government name. It is not on any paperwork. It's just a name I use, a tag I use for my art, and people recognize it. And I'm also very consistent with my marketing and my promotions and my branding. I was doing branding before the word became fashionable. And so when you do that and you use the name repetitiously, even though I have multiple styles, people can somehow keep up with my work.
Correct. You are in your second location, correct?
No, I've had many locations since I've been in Baltimore. I've had a
Really?
studio since I was 17 years old. I've probably had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 studios over that period of time.
Oh wow.
And one we lost in a fire in 1995, and I've been in 3 locations since that fire. But one of the things I wish I had done early in my career was purchase property. It's something I didn't know how to do. I didn't have any in my body, in my family talking that way. But in hindsight, that's one of the things I wish I would have done in my 20s. But again, I've always had a studio since I was 17. And so, one thing art requires is space. It's quiet, it's beautiful, but it takes up space. And my room right now is growing out because I create a lot of work, and then we produce a lot of work and products. So, it does have some other dimensions that people wouldn't normally think about when they see my work in a gallery.
It's like books. Takes up a lot of real estate.
That's the easiest analogy. You buy
Like
a
a
book, you ain't
library.
gonna get rid of it. You're gonna keep it. You claim you're gonna pass it on. You claim you're gonna read it again. But if you're a reader, you keep accumulating. And so even though I stopped buying artwork 20 years ago, artists still give me 10 pieces a year. So I have an immense personal collection that have nothing to do with my personal work. But when you do what you love, that's the kind of stuff that happens.
Yeah. What sacrifices did you have to make to keep going? Because you said you'd been in 9. I only knew about like 3.
No, I don't think it's sacrifice as much as it is survival. When you don't own the space, you under the rules and regulations of the person you renting from. You know how that goes. It's back, some primal stuff. You pay rent or you don't pay rent. You know what happens when you don't pay rent. You're stuck in out front. And so fortunately, I never ended up out front. I have been scuffling into storage containers and fluffing in between when the business changed and I had to pivot and come up with something else. I've had my ups and downs, and I've had total rebuild because in 1995, worst case scenario, I lost everything. And everything I created before 1995 was destroyed. So my art life has 2 chapters really, before my fire and after my fire.
Okay. Have you ever felt pressure to change your style to fit the galleries or what the audience wanted?
No, never. The first thing that most artists have to decide is whether they're going to pursue the fine art side of the business or the commercial part of the business. There's 2 different businesses. When you start talking about Amy Sherrill and all these other folks is in the BMA, that is the fine art world. The other world is everything else: online, products, reproductions, XYZ. And I am a graphic designer by trade, not a general fine arts person. So I kind of came into my business backwards, because if somebody had told me when I registered for school in college at the Maryland Institute College of Art, it should have been that moment like in The Matrix when Morpheus came out with the red pill and the blue pill.
Oh, yeah.
I should have been given a choice. The 2 classes cost the same. But if I had said yes to one, it would have automatically lended some credibility to my journey. And by me not choosing that pill, And being grouped as a commercial artist, it makes it very, very difficult for me to be taken seriously on the fine art side of the business. So just like being in Baltimore culture, you got to pick your gang and know who you with, what colors you're supposed to wear, and what rules apply, and then apply to those rules. So if I wasn't going to be in the fine art realm, which I really wasn't excited about being in, I wanted to pursue everything I wanted to pursue and not have anybody tell me what I could and couldn't do. And the commercial realm was the answer for me. My work is in 500,000 homes as a result of that. That would have never happened if I was on the fine art side. Now, does that mean that upscale museums don't want to see my work? Yes, it probably does. Now, I've shown in upscale museums, but I won't be the first person on their list because of the trajectory that I've chosen for my work. And so you always got to choose which one's in the best interest of you. And I was pretty clear on that from the beginning. What I have been doing is trying to change the rules and regulations of what should be expected of somebody in the commercial realm, because I'm not the only illustrator or artist that decided that they wanted to do it this way. And so it's an exciting time when you see what's happening with Black art all across the board. And I tend to stay more focused on what's happening across the board rather than the two different avenues that are available for artists to pursue.
Is that similar to how they choose the artists, or does that have anything to do with how they choose the artists that do the stamps for the post office?
Totally different thing. The art is so broad and there's so many things. There's not one set of things that's even closely related. The post office has been picking award-winning illustrators for their stamps for many, many decades. And you have to be selected or in a particular realm to even be, unless they have an open call to submit for that. You wouldn't normally be. I like Kadir Nelson has done probably the most. You got Thomas Blackshear has done a few. My friend Cynthia St. James has done a few. And so I know the pedigree of each one of those artists and why they do what they do. But I'm not, if they give me the opportunity, I do it. But because I'm not in that realm, I wouldn't likely get that phone call. I would probably have to market myself to that. And just haven't seen an interest in it at this point.
Okay. I want to talk about the less glamorous side of being a working artist.
All of it's less glamorous.
Because it's also beautiful. It's also colorful. You just love having it around you. It just warms you. What does the plight of the arts look like from where you stand?
That's a big question, because plight of what? I mean, my personal plight, I don't have a plight.
Okay.
I don't have a plight because I have something that I can do that a lot of people can't do. And I do it well. And it brings me peace. So there's no plight in that. The plight comes with dealing with adversarial MFers.
Okay.
Which exist in everything you do, that are going to try to trip you and put up obstacles in between your journey, no matter who you are and what you're doing. And so for me, I've always been pretty agile with that. I have very thick skin. I was born in Baltimore, so you just can't dismiss me. You can't tell me what I can't do. And I learned early from being in Baltimore that there's more than one way to make it to a destination. And so I apply that to everything that I do. I always hear the bureaucracy, red tape, and all the other things that people are going through, and I'm listening for that one little back alley that nobody's listening to. And rather than me talking about the back alley, I go through it.
Okay, so I'm gonna change my question. What challenges do artists face that people on the outside, like myself, looking in, may not understand?
They're balancing and fighting against time, because art is like a time travel thing. I can come in my studio and check in at 9 o'clock and time travel for 12 hours with nobody bothering me, just painting. Which means that if you got a real life, children, wife, dog, goldfish, somebody gonna suffer when you in that zone. And if you got to justify to each one of those people why you're doing what you're doing, then there comes the drama. But I'm the kind of person, I ain't never apologize for nothing. It comes with it. You know, you'll learn from watching. I'm not here to be here to attend to everybody's needs, wants, but I am doing this for the bigger picture of taking care of whatever. And so I don't make excuses. People don't make excuses for the jobs they make to take care of what they got to do. I don't make excuses for being an artist to do what I need to do. And so a lot of sacrifices come because it's so time intensive. You know, to create this kind of work means I have to spend a lot of alone time. Most artists spend a lot of alone time. And so people are not conscious of that part. They think we just like Polaroid cameras and we click our eyes and the artwork fall out our behinds. That is
Oh
not what
wow, is
happens.
that what people think?
Yes, most people think it's so instantaneous that they don't think that there's a process that it might take months for a person to finish a piece. It might take, you know, they just don't have an idea because each artist is completely different. And then in my situation, it's like total chaos. Because if I say I did 80 pieces in 14 days, I don't even know what your mind do with that.
Yeah.
I don't care though, because I'm on my own pace at this stage of whatever. So I don't have one style. You got artists that have one style, artists that have multiple styles. I'm a multiple style artist. So I'm just constantly working, but that quiet time helps me resolve other things. And that's the same for most other artists. Selling it, that's something different.
Why is that something different?
And people go into it thinking that all of it comes with every artist. It does not. Most artists are confused. They don't have any kind of rules and regulations to follow because there's no book. There's more than one trajectory, so they don't know what those are. There's some that aspire to be in the museum, don't even know, they don't have a clue. Some of them don't know how you get into other people's houses. How do you get stuff published? There's so many parts of the art business that artists don't know. They just do the work. And so that's a misconception when you see some artists that are popular and out there, and then you see somebody that say, isn't the first thing you're going to say is, you should go to a gallery. You should be doing you. And so we get it from everybody. Folks living vicariously on the sidelines with what they perceive.
Correct.
Is an answer to what we should be doing. And most of the time they don't have a clue.
Yeah. And they haven't done it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things. I am like, it took me years to understand that I'm like an artist whisperer. Because artists come with big egos, man. So you got to deal with the egos, you got to deal with insecurity, you got to deal with all these things, and then you got to deal with the stereotypes that people have of artists. But I've learned that most artists kind of yield to me because of what I've done and my impact in the business. So that means I'm able to get away with saying some things that most people couldn't get away with. And they respect where the words are coming from.
Yes.
I'm a Sagittarius, so it's going to be blunt anyway.
Yes.
As I get older, I'm a little more sensitive to how it's presented because truth can be as honest as it wants to be. And now I lived under that credo for a long time and not realizing I was still hurting people's feelings. But I ain't also here to preserve people's feelings. If you, because I don't come to you with this. If you come and ask me a question, be ready for my answer.
So you just made a comment about, you know, artists not having a blueprint. There's no book that says this is how you do it. And like you made a comment also about the two different paths they cost us.